Hey everyone, it's Hailey, and today I'm going to be talking about the books that I would like to read this fall. So I did just recently do an October TBR, but don't worry, there will be no repeats because I literally just filmed it, so I made sure that there are no repeats here. But for fall in general, I have quite a few books that I would like to get to. There's no way I'm going to get to all of them, but I'm going to try my hardest to get to as many as I possibly can. So for fall, I kind of like to go for more like mysteries and thrillers than I usually do, and I use that word lightly because that's not usually what I'm super into, but I do like to kind of read them around the spooky Halloween season. I do also have some historical fictions here, a little bit of fantasy. There's kind of a bit of everything, so let's just get into it. Before we get into the books, I wanted to thank the sponsor for today's video, Likewise. There's nothing more frustrating than when I finish a book and I liked it and I want to read something similar, but I don't really know where to go next. I find that trying to pick my next book really just eats up reading time when I can't decide. I'm just thinking of what I should read instead of actually reading, and it very much annoys me. The exact same thing happens with movies and TV shows. I don't really watch a lot of movies or TV, but my boyfriend and I really like to watch TV shows together, and we constantly are spending time just scrolling through the list of what there is and never actually making a decision on what we should watch. That is where Likewise comes in. Likewise is a super cool app that is going to help to recommend things like books, movies, TV shows, and more for you to read, watch, listen to, all of that. Likewise will give you personalized recommendations using a combination of smart technology and also real recommendations from real people. So it knows what you like and it will give you a recommendation based on that, which you really can't go wrong with. I feel like I always have fresh new ideas for what I should read or watch thanks to the app, which is awesome. With the Today cards, you can get personalized lists and recommendations every single day to swipe through, which is very helpful. You can also easily organize and share all of your favorite books with their list feature. And if you find a book that you're interested in, you can save it for later so you won't lose track of it. You also are able to ask for recommendations from the Likewise community by posting what you might be looking for, so it's really a community element to it as well. If you guys were interested in the Likewise app, I definitely recommend it. I think a lot of you guys would find it super helpful. It is 100% free, and I will have a link down below for you guys to check it out and download the app, and you can also follow me on there. And thank you once again so much to Likewise for sponsoring today's video. The first book that I am hoping to read this fall is Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson. I read my first Tiffany D. Jackson book last year. Wow, that hair was really excited to be here. But I read Allegedly by her last year, and it like blew me away. It wasn't what I was expecting at all, so I kind of knew it was a thriller going into it, but for some reason it just didn't register to me, so I have been very intrigued by reading more of her stuff ever since then. This book is about a girl who she's a rising star, and she ends up being the main suspect in a murder. So she's an aspiring singer, and this guy has really been helping her out, but then he ends up turning up dead, and she is the only person who like doesn't have an alibi. So as he has been her ticket to stardom, she is now like, obviously there's a lot of issues going on there, so I just have lots of questions. Knowing how twisted her last book that I read was, I'm expecting this to be really twisted too, but very interesting as well. Next up is Bones of Rune by Sarah Raleigh. I'm so excited to have this book. Thank you so much to the publisher for sending it to me, but this book matches my sweater right now, so it's a whole vibe. By the way, my sweater is from Winners, but this is about an African tightrope walker who is in Victorian London, so she's really used to being kind of the spectacle of colonial gaze, and she has this ability actually that no one knows about, which is that she can't die. So obviously as a tightrope walker who can't die, I am so intrigued by that. It seems really interesting. Definitely a very different sort of story. I love Victorian era stories though, so this seems like one that I'm really going to enjoy as well. Next are the final two books to the Miss Peregrine series. I'm pretty sure these are the last two, but I'm going to have to double check on that. But it has been so long since I've kept up with this series, and I have had these books books for a while now, but to me, they're just the perfect fall reads because they have like all those creepy pictures in them, and it just, I don't know, it kind of creeps me out. Just old photos sometimes creep me out, and the story is just very weird. So I just feel like it's great for around fall, but I didn't get the chance to finish the one that I was listening to the audiobook for last year, so I'm going to have to start it again, and then hopefully I'll be able to get to both of these because I would like to finish with the series, not because like I'm not liking it. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about the 3 editions that they've added onto the series, but I would like the closure. Next is The Lady Rogue by Jen Bennett. Jen Bennett has numerous contemporary novels, and I have read all of them now, but I have yet to read her first historical fantasy. So this is set, I don't know when. It doesn't actually say, but I know that it is set in Romania, and it follows a girl who her father was hunting for this treasure, and it was actually Vlad the Impaler's ring, and she ends up going like to try and find it because he goes missing. So it seems really interesting. I am very intrigued to see how Jen Bennett's writing is going to work for a fantasy novel, just because I've only read contemporaries by her, but I think it could be a really great read. Next up is The Project by Courtney Summers. Courtney Summers is the author of Sadie, which I really liked, and it kind of like blew up a little bit on the bookternet, but I haven't heard much about The Project. But this is her latest release, and this one came out earlier this year. Ow, I like half hit myself in the eye there, but I think it came out earlier this year. I'm pretty sure it was 2021, but now all the time is blending together, so I am questioning. Yes, it is 2021. Okay, but this gives me like major cult vibes. This girl, she like goes missing or something. Oh no, that's not it. Okay, so her family is in an accident, and the sister is the only one who like has survived. Her entire family was killed, but her one sister is in the ICU and is in a coma, and to try and save her sister, she joins like this really weird cult thing, and then the sister who is in the coma ends up waking up and is very upset to find that her sister has joined this cult thing, obviously. So I just have no clue what to make of that, but it definitely seems really interesting. Actually, speaking of cults, next is The Sacred Lies of Minnowply by Stephanie Oakes. I have had this book for quite a while now and keep on including it in like fall and spooky TBRs, but just haven't gotten to it yet. So hopefully 2021 is the year for that to happen. But this is about a girl who was in a cult, and then the cult has been broken up, I believe, and now the police are coming to her for information, and she obviously is dealing with like a lot of trauma and doesn't really want to give the information. It just seems like it's going to be a lot, very spooky, eerie, all of that jazz. Next up is After the Fire by Will Hill. Is this also a cult thing? Yes, it is. I didn't even realize that until I just picked it up now, but it definitely is. So it's this girl who lives inside the fence, and she's never allowed to leave the property or talk to outsiders because Father John controls everything. But then there's this fire, so then I assume that she's free. This was sent to me unsolicited a couple years ago, and a lot of you guys had said that you liked it, so I was going to unhaul it, but I ended up keeping it, and it does seem like definitely like a wild ride. Also, didn't Will Hill write, like, am I getting him confused with someone else? Oh, I think it's Joe Hill that I'm getting him confused with. But Joe Hill, I think, is Stephen King's son, I'm pretty sure, and he writes horror novels, but not the same person, so that is a moot point. Next up is What the Night Sings by Vesper Stamper. I have had this book for quite a while now, and I almost unhauled it, but I decided to keep it and give it a try. But it is partially a graphic novel. Like, it's not really a graphic novel, it just also has pictures, and I think it's going to be a really haunting story because it follows a character after World War II who has been a prisoner in concentration camps. So definitely going to be a really hard read. I have read one book like that before, and I did really like that one. I thought it was very powerful, so I'm expecting more of the same from this one, but I definitely am very intrigued to read it. Next is The Library of the Unwritten by AJ Hackwith. I feel like it was last year when this book like just kind of blew up, and I was so intrigued by the storyline that it's kind of out of my realm of what I usually would pick up, but I decided to go and get myself a copy. So this is basically a library in hell, and the main character, they are head librarian of the Unwritten Wing, which is a neutral space in hell where all the stories unfinished by their authors reside. So I'm sorry for reading the synopsis, but I just want to get it right. So her job is repairing and organizing books, but also keeping an eye on restless stories that risk materializing as characters and escaping the library. So that's what happens. There is this character who ends up going and searching for his author, and the main character here has to try and capture him again. I just feel like that's unlike anything that I've ever really heard of before, and I just like have many questions, but I don't know, like if that synopsis doesn't hook you, I don't know what will. Next is Orphan Monster Spy by Matt Colleen. This is a story about a girl. She is a Jewish girl who ends up going undercover at a Nazi boarding school to try and get information, and like I just am stressed even hearing about that sort of synopsis, but also super intrigued by it. This is definitely going to be a really high stakes situation, and like I want to see how it plays out, but I'm also terrified, and it seems very risky and like nothing I've ever really read before. Next is The Silence of Bones by June Her. This is set in the year 1800 in Korea, and it follows a character who, she's 16, she's an orphan, and she is indentured to be a police servant. In that position, she is assigned to help this well-respected young detective to try and figure out the murder of a high-class noblewoman. So with this young detective or inspector, whatever you want to call it, the synopsis says inspector, so I guess inspector, she starts to form a bond, but then he ends up actually being the #1 suspect in said murder investigation. So that seems a little bit difficult, but I have heard some really amazing things about this book, and it seems unlike anything I've ever read before, which I feel like I've said for a lot of these books, but like truly, so we'll see. And the final books that I'm hoping to read this fall are the Prosper Reading books. So these are by Alexandra Bracken, and I've had them for literally so long, and I have been waiting for right around Halloween to read them. So this year I am going to do it. I swear I need to. I must. But these are middle grade stories, and they seem really cool, like just the spooky Halloween vibes. We've got a little bat cat on the back. They just seem like a lot of fun and like a good Halloween readathon read. So those are all the books that I am hoping to get to this fall. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Thank you so much once again to Likewise for sponsoring me today. Don't forget to check them out in the link down below. It really helps to support my channel, and it's also an amazing app that I think you guys would find very helpful. But thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did and you like bookish content, don't forget to click that subscribe button and then click the bell icon so you'll be notified whenever I post. I post new videos 3 times a week, and thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in another new video soon. Bye!